Welcome to the Barrett channel and welcome to another video coming to you from Shenzhen in China. It's 19 degrees and overcast today, so a little bit chilly today. Big welcome to all our regular viewers and a very warm welcome to any new viewers to our channel. Currently it's about 4 p.m. in the afternoon. I haven't done an update for a few days, so as usual, first to the numbers. So as you can see from the numbers, there are hardly any new cases appearing now within China. Hubei province, which is the epicenter, Wuhan, had 13 new cases, and the total confirmed cases in China is 80,955. The total dead is 3,162, and the total recovered is 61,567. It leaves an active total case of 16,226, of which 15,671 of those are within Hubei province. On to global numbers, and it's Europe that is seeing the largest increases at the moment. Italy had another 977 new cases, France 372, Spain 417, and Germany 341. Italy has by far the most. It just has now over 10,000 confirmed cases. But also France, Spain and Germany all have over 1,500 cases now. South Korea still continue to see a decrease in new cases, but there are cases still popping up in many countries. The USA has another 132 new cases. Actually, at the time of recording this, the case in the USA are now over 1,000, and there are more and more cases popping up in South America also. There are still very few cases being reported in African nations. Now, whether this is due to that there really aren't cases there, or whether it's due to the problem with getting tests to confirm cases, I really don't know, but it is quite worrying. It could possibly spread in African countries without those authorities either knowing or reporting. Here in Guangdong and Shenzhen, we've seen very few cases for the last few days. However, there are still quite a lot of stringent checks and measures in place. They're still checking temperatures everywhere. Actually, if you are interested in that, my son actually got stopped because his temperature was very slightly higher than normal. If you want to watch that, I'll put a card up here. It's a great video. He documented the whole process over a 3-day period of him getting tested. He was I won't tell you what the result was. You can watch the video and have a look for yourself. Other things, yesterday I went out to do some shopping. I was hoping to go into a restaurant to get something to eat. I went to a McDonald's. You're still not allowed to sit in McDonald's to eat, only takeaway. So there, although the incidence of new cases has dropped dramatically here in China, they still have a lot of procedures in place. Obviously there's still nervousness that it could kick off again, but touch wood, as of now they're doing a pretty good job so far. So for Europe, it seems to be spreading quite rapidly across Europe. A number of European countries seeing quite dramatic daily increases in cases, and especially Italy. Italy have now pretty much locked down the whole of the country, and there's a lot of restrictions on travel. And I can't help feeling that other European countries should be doing the same. However, they're not. You know, I follow what's going on quite closely in the UK because that's where I'm from, and it seems to me that they're taking a very reactive attitude instead of a proactive attitude. And I find this even more strange in that when the outbreak started in China, this was a very new disease. It was novel. It hadn't been seen before. So the Chinese authorities were scrambling to find out more about it, and as soon as they realised it was pretty contagious and how easily it spread, from one person to another. They took pretty drastic action relatively quickly, in my opinion. And what I find very strange is that all the other countries outside of China have a head start. They've had like 6 to 8 weeks to see how it's developed in China, see what methods they've used in China. China have shared a lot of data about the spread and about how it moves from person to person, etc. Yet it seems as though many countries outside of China haven't heeded those warnings, haven't looked at that information very carefully. A couple of Asian countries, South Korea and Singapore, they both went into sort of very aggressive testing and quarantining, and it seems to be paying off for them at the moment. Their cases are reducing. I was reading an article about why Taiwan has contained it so well, and it's because when they had the SARS outbreak, they set up a central command and control center. And even before anybody had, even the WHO had declared anything, Taiwan were already testing flights in from China. Now, Taiwan get a lot of travel between China and Taiwan, a huge amount because of its geographical location. But the cases are very few in Taiwan, and again, as I say, that's because they started testing even in late December. They were testing people on flights that were arriving from China. They have a central command and control center that they coordinate everything from. And this is because they put money into that, unlike many other countries which don't have this sort of central ability to be able to respond. I find it quite amazing, that a lot of the countries, and as I mentioned, the UK, they seem to be very reactive. They will get a case at a school. Okay, we better close the school down. I don't know why this is. I really don't understand. The government, although are not playing it down as much as the USA, which I'll talk about shortly, they are to some extent playing it down. And I think we need to take a look at what's happening in Italy. Just a couple of weeks ago they had a handful of cases. Now 2 weeks later they have over 10,000 cases, and the cases are rising quite rapidly, as are the deaths in Italy. Now, there might be a number of reasons why the deaths are so high in Italy. The first reason is that Italy has quite a large population of older people, and as we know, if you're over 50, the mortality rate increases quite significantly, and it keeps increasing all the way up to sort of 80. If you're 80, the mortality rate is really quite high compared to if you're under 50. So that may be one of the reasons. And the second reason, and this is again why the mortality rate was so high in Wuhan, is that Italy now are getting to the point where their health system cannot cope with the amount of people who are infected. And this means that there is a lack of intensive care beds, there's a lack of equipment, there's a lack of doctors to treat these people. So what's now happening in Italy is that they're having to triage people. They're having to make a decision on who should we treat. Should we treat somebody who's 80 years old, or should we treat somebody who are 50 years old? So these are very difficult decisions that doctors are having to make. And I suspect that this will be the case in many other countries. So the slide I'm putting on the screen at the moment shows you the number or the availability of intensive care beds in the various European countries. Now, Italy falls about a third of the way down that list, and as I just said, they are currently already struggling. They have 10,000 or so cases, and they are already struggling with enough ICU beds. Now, so you can just imagine in the situation in Wuhan, where they had 60 or 70,000 infected patients, that was a problem. They didn't have enough ICU beds. So that's the reason why the death rate was higher there. And if you look at Germany, who's at the top of the list, so obviously Germany will be able to cope with a lot more cases before they start running into that same problem. But what's quite worrying is if you look at the UK, which is some towards the bottom of the list. They only have a quarter of the ICU beds that Germany have, and around half of what Italy have. So, you know, that suggests that if Italy are already struggling with 10,000 cases, Britain are going to start to be struggling with 5,000 cases. And that's quite worrying. And I read a report a couple of days ago that suggests that 75% of the ICU beds, maybe even more than that, are already in use in the UK. So the UK has very, very little capacity to deal with extra critically ill patients than most other European countries. That concerns me extremely, especially that the UK is still being very reactive and not proactive. You know, the schools are still open, people can still travel easily on public transport, many crowded venues. Now there are a lot of people, I've seen some footage from London, that streets are a lot quieter, but I find it bizarre that they're not doing things like closing cinemas and gatherings and things like that. Hopefully people will take on board the information they're getting from other sources and react accordingly and stop sort of gathering and things like that. Next, I want to talk a little bit about the USA. I really think the USA, or certainly the administration of the USA, are in some sort of denial about what's happening. To listen to President Trump, it seems that, you know, it's just another flu and it's not a big problem and it will go away. And this is not something that I'm saying, this is something that I'm reading from many news stations, many news reports, newspapers, TV stations there. And I'm just going to put this report on the screen. Many people say that the media is very controlled in China, and to some extent that is very true. But I sometimes feel the media is not just controlled in China, it is also controlled in many other countries, you know, to push the narrative of what that government wants to. And I think this article highlights that a number of experts are sort of being silenced in the US. Now, this talks about Dr. Tony Fauci, I think that's how you pronounced it, and he's been an expert in the USA for you know, 3.5 decades on this kind of infectious disease spread and control. And he was booked to appear on a number of shows over the weekend in the US to talk about what people should do and about the spread of the coronavirus within the USA. And at quite short notice, 5 of his shows were cancelled because it's believed that his line of talk didn't agree with the current administration, didn't fall in line with them. So I just want to sort of point out that it's not just China who silence certain areas of their media, but it is also other countries too. And it does surprise me that the president of the USA seems to be being kind of a little bit blasé about the situation. And I won't go into them, but that there are a number of reports online to show mathematically how bad the situation could get within the USA. And although there's been many promises by the authorities in the USA that there'll be plenty of test kits available, I am still reading a number of reports that are saying people still can't get tested. And the old people's nursing home, I think it's called Life Care, that has just recently been an epicenter of an outbreak. Many people there have died. It's now thought that around 50 of the staff have started showing symptoms there, and they think it's more, but the home has actually publicly said that they still can't get enough test kits to test all the staff at that home. So again, there's very conflicting information that the authorities there are saying that there's plenty of test kits, yet on the ground it still seems there's not enough test kits. Okay, well, I hope my update today has given people a lot to talk about. It'll be great to engage in some conversation to see what people's thoughts are in the comments. That does bring me to the end of the update for today. I probably won't be back with you tomorrow, but I'll probably be back with you the following day. As always, I will tell you that these updates and many of our other videos are getting a limited or a demonetized status, which means we are making very, very little, if any, income from them. So any support from any of you, it's very much appreciated. I'll put the graphics on the screen and the links are down below if you do want to support us. If you like the video, please give us a thumbs up. It really helps us get out there and spread the word about what's going on. If you like the channel in general, consider becoming a subscriber. And if you want to know as soon as you've got a new video out and get a first notification, hit those bells. But as usual, as always, take care.